Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. Little technical difficulties there. Not exactly sure what happened, but thanks for joining us. For those of you who have not joined us before, my name is Scott Reich. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney here in the great state of Colorado, and we're coming to you live Tuesday night from the beautiful Crime Talk studios located in Denver, Colorado. Thanks for joining us. We know you have lots of other things you could be doing. So the fact that you are joining us and taking time to do this, we appreciate you, and does not go unnoticed. We hope your week and your new year is starting off pretty good so far. We hope so for everybody. And if it's not, hopefully things will get better. So we didn't do a show last week. I can't remember what it was, but life has been very busy. And if I had to show you all my billing slips today, I was so efficient. Oh my gosh, I got so much done in the last couple of days. It was about time. I needed to get back into focusing on a couple of things that I've been dreading doing. I don't know if y'all have ever had to do that. But then, it's that 10% rule. You spend 90% of your time on 10% of the clients. The squeaky wheels usually are the ones, you wind up like, I spend more time talking to this person than I do on like 5 other cases. And it's not that much more difficult. They're just a little more attentive. They need that, but that's okay. We can do that. So didn't come here to talk about my busy day. Lots of things going on out there. Obviously, I think it's kind of the big news. Maybe we haven't focused on enough, but really it's kind of our first live is the Delphi murder cases. We have Richard Allen, who has his original attorneys fired a couple months ago by special judge Francis C. Gull. I love that. I don't know why, but I love saying that name. Because at least her parents had a sense of humor. And so it kicks off the original attorneys. They bring in a couple of other attorneys. And I told you, I had never seen an attorney be told by a judge that you are incompetent and I am kicking you off the case. And, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think that's every attorney's worst fear. And even though attorneys have, for the most part, usually egos, they still wonder every time they, do a good job. Oh my God, did I do well enough? Was it good enough? I don't know. I still have a tendency. I sit down with a closing statement, and you think, God, did I do okay? First thing you do is kind of lean over to the client. Was that okay? Was that okay? You're always looking for that reaffirmation that you're doing a good job for your client. So when Andrew Baldwin and Bradley Rossi got kicked off the case by the judge, I guess it was October timeframe of last year, it's got to make you feel a little like, oh my gosh. But, they got socked in the gut. They got kicked off the case. They got new attorneys, and then they went and filed these extraordinary writs to the Indiana Supreme Court saying, hey, this Judge Gull, she's like, trying to do us dirty, kicking us off. And, let's face it, the behind the story issue here is, and I've got the motion right here in my stack of stuff from the Delphi homicide case. Man, we got a lot of knives over here too, Frank. I need to put some of these away. We have everything here. Oh, yeah, here it is. It's the big, thick one. It's huge. It's their motion that they filed. Remember the old Odonites order? We started reading it one night. They filed a 120? Let's see here. Let's get this right. We want to make sure we get it right. 105-page motion basically stating that the police had withheld evidence, had filed incorrectly. Yeah, here it is. It goes on and on and on. Jeez. Guess I got a little out of order here. No, 106, 112. We're up to 129. 136 pages. 136 pages, right? Saying that there's a Franks hearing issue. Basically saying there's no way that you could obtain probable cause by looking at this. 136 pages for this. I mean, they go through, and we started reading it one night. I think we got to about what, page 40, I think, Frank, is where we were at one point. Like and it kind of goes through the entire investigation where Richard Allen's attorneys are saying that they kind of dropped the ball, didn't look at anything. Basically, you know, they focused on a particular theory and wouldn't refuse to look at any other possibilities out there whatsoever. And we went through it, and it was like, wow. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be. I mean, I was like, I'd say it's enough to get a Franks hearing, but the judge penned a couple of pages on all the motions. Yeah, denied. I think everything in there is truthful. There's nothing that you've presented that would rise to the level of a Franks hearing. That 136-page hearing or 136-page motion where you request that hearing, nope, denied. That's it. Now, don't get me wrong. Based upon the motion that they filed, it goes through how it is factually, I mean, it would be impossible for the crime scene to have been done by one person. Now, of course, that's not always good when your guy's charged. Doesn't really matter if other people are there or not. If they believe that your guy did it, then that's going to be a problem. But, I mean, let me just give you an example, okay? Let me give you an example. This is from page 32 of the Franks motion. And I won't bore you with anything, but I think it just kind of shows you some of the problems that they have. And this is just page 32, second paragraph. All right, we'll just start here. But it says, publicly, Liggett had claimed under oath that one single solitary person was responsible for abducting and murdering the girls, Richard Allen. Claiming publicly that Richard Allen acted alone would allow Liggett to continue proclaiming the murders were not the result of a coordinated abduction and subsequent ritualistic sacrifice at the hands of a pagan religious cult. No, if Liggett continues trying to convince everyone publicly that one man and one man alone performed all the tasks, then Liggett must convince others, including the public, to ignore the voluminous mountains of evidence to support the coordinated efforts of multiple Odinites. However, you will learn in this memorandum that Liggett's claim that one man acting alone, and certainly not an organized band of cultists, murdered those girls is actually not something that Liggett believes privately based upon one-on-one conversations with law enforcement. Still, to be fair, Liggett's public proclamation under oath lets test Liggett's claim that one man, Richard Allen, acted alone by reviewing all the tasks that this 5-foot, 4-inch man would have had to accomplish in order to pull off the abduction, ritualistic murder, and then stage the crime scene as found on February 14th, 2017. First, this one man would have to have been solely responsible for marching Abby and Libby down a steep hill. Second, this one man then would have had to march both girls through the woods for some distance. Third, at some point in time, this single solitary man would have to cross a cold river whose depth was nearly 3.5 feet. At this depth, if the water were only 2 feet higher, Richard's whole body would have been completely immersed from head to toe. With the cold river, water rising well above his waist, this man, acting alone, has to worry about himself crossing the river while only trying to corral 2 girls, keeping them from running or screaming, knowing that the houses were not far away. This man, on his own, would have to then march the girls up to the site of the murder, while all 3, because of the depths of the water, were wearing undergarments, pants, shirts, jackets, socks, and shoes that were drenched with water from the river's crossing. Once he and the girls arrived at the murder scene, the single solitary person then somehow would have had to subdue either Abby or Libby in rope. Subdue either Abby or Libby in rope or some other restraining device in order to have the ability to kill the unsubdued child without fear that the other child would run away or scream. Because of the lack of the blood on the girl's clothing, each child would have to have been completely disrobed before the single solitary man sliced his first victim's neck, so that the man acting alone either asked each child to disrobe or he assisted in the disrobing. Trooper Jeremy Hallman of the Unified Command has confirmed that both girls were naked at one point in time as Liberty was found at the crime scene completely naked, while evidence shows that Abby at one point in time had her clothes off. Once the girls were disrobed and naked in the middle of the forest in the middle of the day in February, and once he had subdued one of the girls to prevent her from running away, the man acting alone could finally kill the girls. The man acting alone would have pulled the ceremonial knife or whatever sharp instrument was used to inflict the fatal injuries to the neck of the first child. It is unknown which child perished first, while the second child watched, hopefully without screaming or becoming so hysterical that said child was uncontrollable. The man acting alone would then have to walk over to the second child, who was somehow subdued, and inflict the same fatal injuries to her neck. The autopsy notes taken by Liggett reveal that the pathologist stated that because of the particular vein that was severed, Abby suffered a slow death. To give Liggett as much additional time needed to sell this preposterous story that one man committed all these tasks in a short period of time, we will presume that the one man acting alone took Abby's life first and Libby's second, so that the lone killer would efficiently handle all the necessary tasks while Abby suffered her slow death. Additionally, even after Abby finally would have died, the man acting alone would have had to then wait enough time so that the blood escaping from Abby's neck would stop flowing, as there was little or no blood found on any of the clothing Abby was wearing other than around the neck area, both undergarments and outer garments, meaning that the single solitary man likely clothed Abby's dead body after the flow of the blood ceased. Once this man acting alone inflicted the injuries to Abby's neck and she was dying a slow death, he would have left Abby on the ground somewhere away from where she was ultimately laid to rest, as there was little blood in the scene where she was laid to rest and posed, and where the man acting alone placed little sticks on her body. While waiting for Abby to die her slow death, the man acting alone would have then used his ceremonial knife or whatever sharp object he used to inflict Libby's fatal injuries at the base of the F tree where Libby's blood was found. While waiting for Abby to die her slow death, and then while waiting for the blood to stop escaping from Abby's fatal injuries, this man acting alone would then grab Libby's body from the F tree, where she was probably killed, dragging her to her final resting place at the base of the tree where she was found. While waiting for Abby to die her slow death and then waiting for the blood to stop draining from Abby's neck, this man acting alone then would have to pose and position Libby's dead body in the manner in which her dead body was found at the scene. While waiting for Abby to die her slow death and then waiting for the blood to stop draining from Abby's neck, this man acting alone would then select a variety of tree branches and sticks with the ultimate purpose of placing them on Libby's dead body. After selecting the branches and sticks, this man acting alone would then gather those sticks and branches. After gathering the selected branches and sticks, the man acting alone would have to carefully arrange the sticks in the pattern found in the crime scene. This man acting alone would have to take the largest and longest of the branches and use his dexterity to lift the large branch over Libby's left shoulder next to her head. Next, the man acting alone would have to have taken a smaller stick and placed it under Libby's neck on a straight line from Libby's right shoulder to her left shoulder, but over the previously laid out large branches that the man acting alone had placed over Libby's left shoulder, described in paragraph 14a. Next, the man would have to grab one of the longer sticks and place it on Libby's right thigh near her genitalia. The stick would have been placed alongside the right side of Libby toward her head, but over the shorter stick discussed in paragraph 14c. The stick, starting near Libby's genitalia, would form the right half of the V along the stick discussed in 14d. Next, in order to form what can be described as a V, the man acting alone would take another stick, place it in on Libby's left thigh near her genitalia, and connect it with the stick described in 14c to form the base of the V. Then this man would run the stick essentially along the left side of Libby's body over the large tree branch that is mentioned in 14a. The stick placed on Libby's left thigh would also connect with it, and in fact may even have attached to. The photo makes it hard to tell the stick described in 14b. At some point in time, once the blood drain from Abby's neck had stopped, this man acting alone would then have to discard the clothing from both girls. This man would then have to redress Abby's dead body, starting with the undergarments Abby was wearing without leaving any blood, Abby's or Libby's, on the underpants, except around the neck area where Abby had been mortally wounded. The man acting alone would have to use his dexterity to lift Abby's body in order to maneuver the first bra onto Abby's dead body. This man acting alone would then have to use his dexterity to lift Abby's body in the order to maneuver the first bra under her back. The man acting alone would then have to use his dexterity to secure the bra onto Abby. The man acting alone would then have to locate the second bra that Abby was wearing. The man acting alone would then again have to use his dexterity to lift Abby's dead body in order to maneuver the second bra onto Abby's dead body. This man acting alone would then use his dexterity to secure a second woman's bra onto Abby. Once both bras were secured on Abby's dead body, this man acting alone would have to locate the pink shirt and Abby was wearing underneath the sweatshirt. Once the pink shirt was located, the man acting alone would likely have positioned Abby's arms above her head to make it easier to place the pink shirt onto Abby's dead body. Okay? You get the gist. And this goes on, page 36, page 37. Jump in here to paragraph 46. Once both arms have been placed in the entrance of the openings of Libby's sweatshirt, this man then acting alone would have to use his dexterity to pull the sweatshirt down towards Abby's head, likely using one of his hands as the others was being used to prop up Abby's body so that it wasn't touching the ground, again as the pink shirt, no dirt. Once this man acting alone started pulling the sweatshirt down toward Abby's head, he would have to make sure that Abby's left arm and left hand were also being pulled inside the sweatshirt, left armhole towards the hole at the end of the sweatshirt sleeve. Once again, once this man acting alone started pulling the sweatshirt down towards Abby's head, he would have to make sure that Abby's right arm and hand were also being pulled inside the sweatshirt, right armhole towards the hole at the end of the sweatshirt's right sleeve. Once the man acting alone has successfully guided both right arm and left arm into their respective armholes, then this man would have to use his dexterity to lift Abby's body with one hand while using the other hand to pull the sweatshirt down toward Abby's midsection, making sure that the sweatshirt was pulled over Abby's head. Okay? You get the drift? Do you think that Andrew Baldwin and Bradley Rozzi had spent a ton of time on this case? Do you think that they have thought about this case? When they put those officers on the stand, and they have a right to present a defense, and they're going to go through with all of those detectives. Let's talk about the crime scene. Let's talk about how a single person could have done this. Now, I just give you an example of that. That shows these guys are not a bunch of kooks. Now, let's see. We could all be surprised they could get to court, but somebody spent a heck of a lot of time on that. Basically saying, Judge, what the prosecution gave you in the affidavits was simply not enough. Of course, the judge, and I get it. The legal standard for the case to proceed. I hear it all the time. It's basically a, preponderance of the evidence type of standard, probable cause. Would a reasonable person believe that the crime was committed? That was it. And this guy may have had something to do with it. So the case is going to go forward. But I thought the judge perhaps would have at least done a Franks hearing, at least give the defense the opportunity to further develop their case. But the judge didn't do that. The judge denied everything on the motions. Heck, she did not even set it for a motions hearing where at least they could have at least argued it. All right. Now, you may say, well, Scott, what's the big deal? Don't judges decide cases on the paper all the time? Sure they do. But what's the word I'm looking for? But on a big case like this, you think you would. Okay. Now let's face it. Everybody, Special Judge Francis C. Gull. I love saying that. Francis C. Gull. And I've never met her. I'm sure she's a lovely lady. I'm sure she is a lovely, lovely lady. But the reality of it is that she kind of got spanked by the Indiana Supreme Court. Okay? She did. The Supreme Court said she didn't make the appropriate record. You can't just go and fire the attorneys without basically having a hearing. Now, she didn't get removed. And Richard Allen doesn't get his trial within 70 days of the court's hearing. So they'll probably keep that October trial date, which is okay. That's fine. We can do with that. Gives the defense enough time. But the prosecution has basically seen in this motion, and maybe the defense didn't write this for just the judge. They wrote it for the prosecution to say, hey, man, your theory doesn't make any sense. And I get it. There's lots of weird things that go on in the world. And are there Odinites? I don't know. It would seem like there's maybe a couple of them running around somewhere. But, we'll have to wait and see about that. Okay. We'll have to see if there are Odinites out there. But, I want to totally digress. I watched a show last night with the lovely Miss Kristen. It was on Netflix, and I think it was called American Horror Story. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, I don't know if you have, was that what it's called? American Horror Story, Frank? God, it was so good. And it was a real story. And guess what? Everybody thought that the boyfriend was immediately the suspect. Then the girl shows up, supposedly kidnapped, and she just did this for the attention. American Nightmare. Oh my gosh. American Nightmare on Netflix. This is not a paid promotion. So see if I can back this up. And the reason why I bring this up is because, and I don't want to give away all of the, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to give away everything. Okay. But I'm telling you, this is like an example of when everything goes wrong, where the police focus and they get their tunnel vision on a particular suspect. Let me give you a little bit of a backdrop. Won't tell you everything because then you got to watch it. It's only three hours long, I think, three episodes. So good. Okay. And so this guy and his girlfriend, they live in their home in California. The guy's name was Aaron Quinn and Denise Huskin. And we sidetracked this for the Richard Allen case because it almost sounds so bizarre. You can't believe it. The theory the defense is coming up with. Okay. So Aaron Quinn, he is a physical therapist. His girlfriend by the name of Denise Huskin is also a physical therapist. And he wakes up they both wake up or are awoken in the middle of the night. And the girlfriend, Denise, is kidnapped. And the kidnapper tells Aaron, this isn't about you. This is about somebody else, whatever, but basically relax. Puts on these like goggles, music on their ear, like an old Walkman or something was described in there. and they make him drink something, basically knocks him out, and says, "Hey, I'm going to be watching you, and there's a camera that we're stalling up there. Like, we're bad people. Don't mess with us. We're professionals. And we'll see if you step off of this carpet, which is outlined in red, and bad things are going to happen." So this happens like, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, something to that effect. He doesn't contact the police until the next day. And he's like, "Yeah, my girlfriend was kidnapped last night." "Well, why didn't you call them?" "Well, I couldn't. They were going to kill me, and I was drugged." And of course, the police are like, "Really? Oh, wow." He describes how the guy came in like a wetsuit, put the stuff on their eyes, didn't see anything. He was scared to death, took it totally for real. Anyway, so they don't like this Aaron guy. They think he killed his girlfriend. And at some point, he's like, are you accusing me of something? I think I need to get myself a lawyer. And, they believe, his lawyers believed what he was saying. Like, this is just almost too weird to be true. And then several days go by, and then this Denise Huskin woman shows up. And this is up in Northern California where she's kidnapped. She shows up down in like Huntington Beach, where she grew up in that area near her dad's house, and basically calls and says, "Hey, Dad, I'm home." So everybody thinks, oh, she's just kind of a gone girl kind of thing. And the FBI was thinking that, this is just a gone girl. The movie came out a year before that. And this all goes back to 2015 when this all went down. And so it gets even a little more weird. So she's not sure what to do. And then they start the second episode with Denise Huskin, because you're thinking, that woman, oh my God, it's bad enough that you have your boyfriend. He's basically being accused of kidnapping you, possibly murder, who knows what else. And then all of a sudden, she shows up and you're like, oh, that woman is evil. And then you hear the story. And so she's ultimately goes to the police. She didn't tell him everything the first time through, but I'll tell you, it's interesting and it's significant. But she tells the police the story that, yeah, she was kidnapped. I'm not trying to be a spoiler. But she tells her story and she gives incredible detail, just like her boyfriend, Aaron, had told the police. But the cops there in California, Northern California, are like, yeah, whatever. You wasted our time, resources. You're just a big piece of trash. Did you conspire with Aaron to do this? Blah, blah, blah. And it's a crazy story. And they don't know what to make of it. She goes into great detail. And I won't go into stuff, but basically, she was assaulted by this particular individual. And which gave more credibility, which gave her fear. Okay. And then it turns out all to be true. Now, I'm not trying to ruin anything for anybody. Okay. I really am not. But you have got to watch it. It is so interesting. And the thing is, it is real life. All right. There's a real bad dude out there doing weird, creepy stuff. Okay? Richard Allen kind of weird stuff. And nobody believed it. And thankfully it was for the really good, the very, very good police officers that helped do it, put it all together, because the police in, what is it, like North Vallejo, California or something, Detective Mustard, he was the guy, I think you're lying. Doesn't make any sense. It's always the boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. And the detective, you got to watch it. But those police out there, it shows you how it can happen. And they just put their eyes in that little tunnel vision. They focus on one particular person. They refuse to look at anything else. Now, I don't know if they're a bunch of Odinites in Richard Allen's neighborhood, or if they all work in the prison as his attorneys allege. But the reality is that, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you can't make this stuff up. And it is so weird and so bizarre. And when you read this, and if I had enough hours in the day, I would read this aloud to everybody, and you would see that there would be some problems. As a defense attorney, I'll be like, oh, dude, these guys are going to have such a cross-examination of the police and the lack of their investigation. Because remember, the validity and the thoroughness of the investigation is always at issue when you're at trial. Oh, you failed to do this, did you, detective? Well, detective, you did this, but what did it talk about this? Let's talk about the considerations. And now, could you imagine if Baldwin and Rozzi were able to bring in like mannequins that weighed as much as Libby and Abby did at the time? And say, well, hey, detective, it's so easy and it makes so much sense. Why don't you go ahead and do that in the time that my guy was supposedly right down there? You do it by yourself. Just go ahead. You've seen the pictures. Go ahead. Just do it. They're not going to be able to do it. And can you imagine? I mean, every one of those paragraphs that I read. So the man acting alone placed the first large branch across Abby's body. Correct, detective? That's what he'd have to do. Would you agree with me on that? Okay. And just go through this question by question by question. And the detective has the script. He's been given it to him. The defense has laid out their theory. And is it for the prosecutor? Yes. To say, hey, your theory doesn't make sense. Is it for the public? Maybe to say, hey, wow, this theory just doesn't make sense. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't know Richard Allen. But I read this 136-page brief that they filed saying, hey, judge, something's not right here. And it's your kind of job. If you're going to be a fair and impartial judge, take a look at it. Maybe you could spend a little more time telling us why we're so wrong, because we're a bunch of incompetent boobs, apparently, to explain why this makes no sense whatsoever. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the defendant in any criminal case, and here in the Richard Allen case, does not have to prove himself innocent. The prosecution has to prove Richard Allen guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's it. They have to do that. That's tough. It is a heavy burden that they carry. And for them to be completely dismissive of it, and when they bring in their expert witnesses and their investigators and even the police investigators to say, hey, you were aware of this Odinite thing, right? Okay. Well, in the course of your investigation, what did you learn about Odinites? Well, it's kind of this weird thing. They got some, cults, and it's not like they advertise, who's going to do it. It's kind of a weird secret society. And sure, this is really weird. And yeah, all these little figures that we found at the crime scene just coincidentally had to do with this Odinite thing. But we completely dismissed it because, well, we just didn't think it was plausible. We thought we had one person doing it all here, and Mr. Allen. And, when we searched his house, we found a gun, and it's the same basic firearm caliber that was in the gun. And even though this firearm was routinely manufactured in mass production, we believe it, the spent round at the scene, or unspent round, I'm sorry, that was cycled through the gun is Richard Allen's gun. Did we mention that? That's it. Ignore all this other stuff. He did this by himself. He acted alone. We've investigated everything. Trust us. We know what we're doing. Well, isn't it also true, detective, that Mr. Allen went down after he talked to a friend that was in law enforcement and said, hey, I was in that general area. Should I go talk with somebody about this? Yeah, you should. Yeah, they do that. And so the crack team of investigators go down there, and he interviews them, or they interview him, and they misplace his paperwork, his report, for some 7 years, And when they finally go back, it's like, hey, let's go doing it. Somebody's going through it. It's like, hey, I found this little piece of paper here. I found this little, it was kind of shoved in here in this little file. It doesn't have it. It didn't get indexed. Oh, wow. Look at that. That guy's right here. Oh my gosh. Boy, we're going to look so stupid, aren't we? Oh my gosh, we look so stupid. The guy's living right under our nose. The guy came and talked with us. We lost the piece of paper with his name on it. And they found it. I mean, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if Richard Allen did it or not. I don't know. I'm just hoping for some good lawyering at trial. We had some good lawyering when it came to the motions practice. I just wish they'd actually had an actual motions hearing. Now I get it. Oh, Scott, it's a Frank's chair. You have to make a substantial showing of statements, to get around having a hearing based upon the four corners of the affidavit. Okay, I know, I get it. But they have those names for cases because it was Franks v. Delaware, where officers lied. FBI agents lied in affidavits to obtain wiretaps. That's a warrant. That's why they call it a Franks hearing. So it happens, ladies and gentlemen. Now, do I think the police officers go around lying on every affidavit? No, I do not. There are lots and lots of great detectives out there. There are a lot of great detectives out there. But there's also some bad ones. And it only takes a bad one. Let's face it, sometimes you're so worked up, you just want to, you just want to win. You know this guy's dirty. And they're going to cut a little corner. No one will ever know. It's a big picture. It's justified. You can do it. It's okay. It happens, ladies and gentlemen. Now, am I saying that this is the one thing here? Is this the one thing, this is the one they lied about? I don't know. I don't think so. But it certainly has to keep the district attorney up at night when you realize that, oh man, you read this, how come we didn't find all this out? Oh, we did, but we didn't go down that path because it could be embarrassing to somebody, or it's so outrageous. It's so outrageous. It just possibly couldn't be true. And besides, we've got this confirmation bias. We think it's one guy. So let's focus on that one guy. We got our one guy. He's the only one that did it. But just like in that American Nightmare on Netflix, I'm telling you, go watch it. Okay. It has the CrimeTalk seal of approval of being very well done. And it just shows so many things about getting wrapped up in a criminal case, whether somebody's a victim, whether somebody is a suspect, even if it is negative or false. But the reality of it is that it can happen to anyone. I mean, you have this guy, this Aaron Quinn guy. I mean, the guy practically picks up little spiders and, takes them outside. He's so squeaky clean, never been in trouble a day in his life. Probably never even, came to a full stop at every stoplight. That's how he is. Even Denise Huskin never gave anybody trouble, no criminal history. They're both doctors of physical therapy. Aaron was trying to get together with his his girlfriend. So the cops are like, his fiance who had cheated on him. And wow, that's why you did. That's why you killed Denise. I mean, they're accusing this guy of murder and they don't even know what happened. And they looked like, and I hate to say I'm going to go out there, they looked like a bunch of idiots. And it's worth watching. Okay, it's worth if you watch no other movie on Netflix, you need to watch it. I'm telling you, you're just like, I mean, I see this stuff all the time. I'm like, okay, yeah, but it was recommended, so I watch it, and I'm literally like, my first thought, oh my gosh, he did it, and then you're like, oh my gosh, she's a horrible person, and then it's like, oh my gosh, that took a twist and a turn, and so it just shows you that you have to really, really wait for the facts to come out. You can't just always jump to conclusions. And I'm telling you, and some of it can be disturbing. Maybe that's not it, but it'll make you think, oh my. And everything that took place throughout this, these people are talking about this like almost 10 years later, and they're still freaked out by it. So whether it was that, an American Nightmare or Richard Allen, just because it almost sounds so crazy, and who would believe that? And, the professionals, they know what they're doing, and they always know it's a suspect, and they're going to go in there and, use those, tactics. This Aaron kid, you felt sorry for the guy. He's trying to cooperate, saying, help find my girlfriend. Why are we not out there trying to find the kidnappers? You guys are in here accusing me of stuff, right? And I don't know, like I said, Richard Allen, for Aaron in that case and the Huskin lady, it turned out okay. The truth came out. But it's not like the police were out there looking for it. They were looking to build their case. So that's what it comes down to in the Richard Allen case. Yeah, it's weird. It sounds crazy. Almost too bizarre to be true. But can it mean it doesn't happen? And I can tell you in my professional experience, that is why when something sounds almost unbelievable, like you can't make this stuff up, right? How many times have we said this on CrimeTalk? Oh, you can't make this stuff up. It happens. There is weird stuff that goes on in the world. There are weird people that go on in the world, and they do weird, crazy stuff. And it may seem so unbelievable, so unbelievable, but it doesn't mean it didn't happen. And I've had cases where clients have told me stories, and you're just like, I don't get it. No, that's freaking crazy. There's no way that no one's going to believe that. Right. And then you go get your investigator and you go and you talk to witnesses, and, the witnesses don't have any dog in the proverbial fight, so to speak. And all of a sudden, everything that your client tells you starts coming out as, oh my gosh, the client is telling the truth. Oh my gosh. And, we've all gone in like, oh, this guy's so guilty. Oh, we're just going to take a deal. Oh my goodness. Oh, we just need to get a deal in this case. And then it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to require some real investigation. And it turns out to be true. So think about that, ladies and gentlemen, when you watch this American Nightmare, and I'm telling you, not a paid promotion, but if they wanted to pay me, I would tell you the same thing. Great movie. It's worth 3 hours of your time. Of course, after you get done watching CrimeTalk and after you do your Patreon show with me, after we get done here, then go watch the Netflix. All right. And then think back. Wow, that almost seems so bizarre to be true. Wow, it's almost like all that Odinite stuff going on in Indiana. Is that for real? I don't know. You have to think about it. Okay. And maybe it's just, I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy, but I think I've been around the block enough to say, sometimes there can be forces that don't want you to do a particular thing. They will pressure you. They will say, don't do this. You need to think about your career. You need to think about this, and it's like, yeah, I have a duty to my client. And, it just seemed a little weird. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. All right. But don't you think it's just a little weird that they lay out this huge brief as to their theory of the case? Either it's so outrageous, it's so ridiculous, these attorneys need to be disbarred, because how could they possibly come forward with this theory? It's ridiculous. Or somebody doesn't want that theory to be publicized out there to everybody else in the world, right? Because it's going to make the police look bad. They didn't do their job. They didn't follow up. They focused on a particular person, didn't look where the facts led them, all that stuff. So then Judge Frances C. Gull, love saying her name, special judge. Like, do special judges ride in special buses? Special Judge Frances C. Gull. And she goes and says, I'm firing you all. And remember, what did they say? What did the judge say was the basis of firing him? Well, we read the transcript. We had the transcripts. We read it in previous shows. She basically was like, yeah, you guys are incompetent, and I'm going to give you the saving grace of quitting now, or I will find you incompetent out on the record in front of everybody. And Terry's like, oh, okay, thanks, Judge. What was it? And what was the basis for it? They said that the prosecution spent all this time and money. Somebody released photos of the crime scene. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, my gosh, it's terrible. Oh, no, nobody can see the photos of the crime scene. That's terrible. Terrible. Don't let anybody see the photos of the crime scenes. We wouldn't want that to take place. Prosecution spent like 4 days nonstop trying to come out with what happened. The attorneys are cooperating with them. It's like, hey, it's my former office manager / paralegal that came to the office. And, I thought he was a friend, still does occasional contract work for me. I'm like, yeah, man, this is the room. This is the war room here where we've got all of the Richard Allen stuff set out. Hey, hold on, I got to go take a call. That former employee, unbeknownst to the attorneys, starts taking pictures. Pump, pump, pump. Sends it to people. I'm sorry. Now, is that, I guess it's maybe negligent. I guess you should always keep everything, out of access from anybody. God forbid, the cleaning people come in at night and start looking at your desk when you're preparing for trial and you got your war room spread out. That could have happened to anybody. You got a disgruntled employee that could have sent something like that out. You can't watch it, 24/7, just yourself. Let's get for real. Okay. And frankly, yes, I get it. Oh, the privacy interest of the crime scene, blah, blah. I don't get, think about it. Think about the logic of this, ladies and gentlemen. The crime scene photos are too graphic. The crime scene photos are too gory for anybody to see. You just can't handle anything about it. Except we'll just randomly select, 12 random people from the community, and we're going to show them the nastiest stuff that you've ever seen. It's probably going to cause them a little post-traumatic stress disorder because of it, because they don't get to see it. But everybody else, you can't see it. Nope. We're going to block the camera out. We're not going to let the people in the courtroom see it. It's too disturbing. It's too emotional. And I say, why not? Shouldn't we want society to see what evil can do and what evil does? So when somebody says, oh my God, yeah, that's evil, right? You got the people like, oh my God, that's evil. He punched somebody on the train. No. I get that's not nice. You shouldn't do that. Dangerous. You could kill somebody even. But when you start chopping up young kids, in some sense, you want the world to see that so the world knows what the hell's going on out there. Because right now, everybody's so offended by it. Let the people see. The people deserve the truth. The people need to know what's going on in the world. They deserve to know what's going on in the case. And frankly, if it upsets you, that's okay. It's hard to look at. But that is the reality of it. So when I can sit here and say, hey, you know what? I can probably count on one hand what I would define as pure evil. And I define pure evil as like no redeeming qualities whatsoever, right? As an attorney, your job is to find something good to say about your client if you get to sentencing, or you're having a conversation with the district attorney about trying to resolve the case. Oh, he's a good guy. He's a young kid, made a mistake. We can do that, right? But when somebody does truly horrific, evil things, it's tough to come up with something nice to say about him. Well, he's always been polite to me, Your Honor. Never chopped me up into a million pieces, although I think he probably would have liked to. But he restrained himself and exercised some good self-discipline. And frankly, Your Honor, I'm very appreciative of that, right? Those are the arguments that you make when you're dealing with pure evil. And it's not bad to let people see that, okay? So going back to Richard Allen here as well. I mean, what do I say? There are no coincidences in criminal law. No coincidence in criminal cases. Oh, what a coincidence. The girl just happened to be disappeared as, shortly after, the hitman was hired. And coincidence, the guy was watching over there from his GPS. It all puts him right there, right? What a coincidence. They're not. Sometimes there's not a lot of coincidence either that, I don't know, sometimes they want somebody off the case. They come up with a reason to get somebody off the case. In this case, the judge. Now, I'm assuming this Judge Frances C. Gull is of the highest integrity. She maybe just got a little overjealous and was like, you know what? This is just an outrageous conduct. I never would have allowed somebody into my war room and taken photographs of my stuff when I wasn't looking. It's never happened to me. I mean, wouldn't it be funny if her clerk issued an order or something, something from her chambers got out? I mean, outrageous. No, could never happen to me. Never. As somebody told me a long time ago, never say never. Never say never. Never say always. You don't have those absolutes. And so, coincidence? I don't know. You got a bunch of attorneys that are going after this hard, going after the police hard, going after whether you have Odinites or not, whether they believe them or not. I don't know. That's the defense. They have a right to present their defense of the case. And I guess their theory is that Mr. Allen was framed by the Odinites. I mean, and if you think about it, I'm not trying to, I don't know. I really don't care whether Richard Allen was involved in it or not. But if you go with their theory was, the gun, I mean, the most damning evidence is obviously that they supposedly put him near the scene. There's some voice analysis that maybe that could possibly be his voice saying down the hill. The gun matching the unspent round at the scene. Bad fact as well. I mean, there's some bad facts, but they came up with enough of it. I don't know. Will it be enough of reasonable doubt? I don't know. But I hope Special Judge Frances C. Gull sets a case sooner rather than later. But somehow, I mean, we know that his new attorneys, or his new attorneys who are his old attorneys, are back on the case. I'm assuming they're chomping at the bit, ready to go tell that judge, bring it on, judge. Like we told you we were right. You couldn't do that. And you got spanked in open court by the Indiana Supreme Court. And they said, you screwed up. Not us. You did, judge. And of course, what do most people do when they screw up? They don't want to play nice. They're going to have somebody else, right? All right, Mr. Brassy or Baldwin and Rozzi. That's what they're together. They're Bozzy. That's what that was. Andrew Baldwin and Bradley Rossi. So there you go. Okay, judge, bring it on. Oh, I'll bring it on for you. That order just came down last week, right? Didn't take the judge hardly any time. Denied. Oh, and everything else that comes before this court, Mr. Bradley and Rossi, and Mr. Allen, since we're going to throw you in, you wanted these guys as your attorneys that I thought were incompetent boobs. Yeah, denied. That's what every motion is going to be from here on out. Denied. Maybe the judge is figuring, hey, this case is going to come back for whatever reason. Bring it on. Bring it on. At least he'll have his attorney of choice. So I guess we'll take out ineffective assistance of counsel at that point. So denied. You embarrass me, I'm going to embarrass you. Denied. Respectfully, though. Special Judge Francis C. Gull. So we'll have to wait and see. Wow. Goes by so fast. I mean, we had a good, that was whew. All right, let me see if there's any good chats here. Sorry, I kind of get on my soapbox here. And, obviously I wanted to talk about the Richard Allen case. We also had the, obviously the Chad Daybell matter as well, which I think is worth noting. John Pryor. Like, dude. If I knew the man, I'd be like, dude, what were you doing, man? Like, you were this close, right? You've more than earned your fee. You were this close to being able to get off, totally amicable, letting new attorneys come in that were death qualified, and you could have been off. No ineffective assistance issues way down the road. You got paid what you got paid. You weren't going to get paid anymore. And then you go into court and all of a sudden, well, Judge, it's not about the money. And I'd be like, John. It is always about the money. And if you're saying it's not, you're lying, because it is. You don't want to go do a 6-week trial for free. You don't want to prepare for a 6-week trial for free. I'm sorry. Even if you win that case, maybe you ride the circuit a little bit, getting invited to some CLEs to talk about the case that nobody thought you could win. Maybe you get a couple of guest appearances on, some news programs. Maybe you can even get a gig. But nothing against you, John. I mean, I just don't see it happening in that particular way, even if you win. And Idaho, although big, not huge criminal cases coming through, although we got a lot of them, right? We got this one in Idaho. We got the Koberger case in Idaho. They got another one of the guys killing their neighbors in Idaho. Not, it goes on everywhere. Okay. But he was this close to getting off that case. I wonder if he went home at night. I don't know. I don't know if he's married or not, but he probably, whether his spouse, girlfriend, whatever, he had to have said, WTF. I was this close to getting off, but my ego got in the way and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I guess maybe deep down, he really wants to do a good job for Chad Daybell, even though he says he's per se ineffective. He has neither the money nor the resources to properly conduct an effective mitigation package, prepare for mitigation, and to do this case flying solo. And not to mention any other cases that he's taken on that he was hoping to, get a fee to keep the lights on, pay the mortgage, all that other good stuff. This close. John Pryor was this close to getting off, and he blew it. But guess what, John? We're there with you, buddy. We're there with you. Okay. It's a simple defense, right, John? You've been working on it for 4 years now. Ladies and gentlemen, my client is not guilty. All it takes is an allegation to get through those doors. But what you're going to hear from the evidence of legal and competent evidence is that the true killer in this particular case, not only for Tammy, JJ, Ty Lee, but it was Lori Vallow and her brother, Alex Cox. Now the prosecution is going to bring up a lot of stuff about the bodies being found on the property. Guess what? They were. Mr. Pryor had no knowledge of that whatsoever. You're going to hear lots of stuff going on about people shooting at Tammy, blah, blah, blah. Not John Pryor, didn't know. Sure, he met Lori Vallow and he did things that probably would violate his oath that he swore to God. And, he's atoned for that, but he's not a killer, ladies and gentlemen. He may be a philanderer, but he's not a murderer. Lori Vallow, Alex Cox. Lori Vallow, Alex Cox. They're the murderers. That's what they're going to have to keep hyping on in that trial. And maybe he'll get a sympathetic juror or two. But that is the theory of the case. I don't care about all the other stuff. Oh, you found DNA on a pick handle. I would expect so if somebody's digging a hole, building shallow graves. Okay, detective, when was that grave built? During that time period, are you aware of the fact? Do you know where Mr. Pryor was? He was out of town on, his book deal, spouting the end of the earth was coming, and he had to get his 144,000 followers. So he was pretty busy. In fact, he wasn't really focusing on anything related back at that house. So therefore, what can you do? I don't know what to tell you. It wasn't my client. That's the, the defense for John Pryor. Didn't know Alex Cox, Lori Vallow's brother, killed the kids. Why? Because they're crazy as a jaybird. That's what you go with. And because he's the only sane guy here. But he was under a spell put on by Lori Vallow and went right to his crotch. And it had a powerful spell on him. And he did things he wasn't proud of, but he didn't kill any kids. And he didn't kill his wife. That's the theory. So, John, I get it. You've had 4 years. I mean, we've been watching for 4 years. Granted, we don't have all the discovery, but I think I pretty accurately summed it up. If you think I'm wrong, you want to brainstorm it, call me. I won't talk about it. Call me. We'll brainstorm it. We'll try to come up with something for you. All right? Remember, those bad facts, you have to embrace those bad facts. Remember, I had an attorney that worked for me at one time. And she came to me. It was a homicide case that they had, and she was doing it with another attorney from a different firm. And they're like, yeah, it hung. We just really tried to stick away from the guy that, the guy was a drug dealer, and he just didn't kill the murderer. He was a drug dealer. I'm like, well, why? Embrace that fact. Jurors know if you're trying to hide something. Just tell them. My client's a drug dealer, but he didn't kill anybody. Tell the jury that. And if you can show an injustice that the person has been wrongfully accused, that's it. What do juries have? If you can present to a jury and show them that an injustice has taken place, a jury of reasonable people, if they believe that injustice has taken place, they will correct it. And they will correct it through a not guilty. Okay? Had a client once. Let's just say he had a couple of felony convictions, which prohibited him from possessing firearms. We filed a motion to suppress, the cop. It was a bogus stop. They were gang cops. And, they were driving around in some car that they had, seized through the seizure process. And they're like, oh, yeah, we saw the car, and it had tinted windows, and it had that little dangly thing hanging from the mirror. Those little air fresheners, not the little tree fresheners. It was probably the little one that had the picture of that guy named Jeff on it and said, this air freshener didn't hang itself. Anyway, of course, the judge denies it. Well, these cops, they were good guys. They were doing what they could. They're just doing their jobs. And even though you're like, hey, gang officer, detective, you pulled them over for this, noise violation. You pulled them over for these tinted windows and that air freshener hanging out. But in the course of your investigation, you just never happened to file that as part of the charges. Now, did you? Because that was a pretextual stop. Because you don't like my client. Right? And of course, the judge, what do judges do? Well, they struggle. They struggle on the bench. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling. I'm a judge. Oh my God, I'm struggling. Well, there's clearly issues in this case, and it's a really close call, but I'm just going to have to go with the credibility of the police officers, and therefore the motion to suppress is denied. Okay, Judge, got it. Good on you. Appreciate you. See you at trial. And of course, you have bold clients like, I'm not taking a deal. Let's go do this thing, right? Let's go do it. And so, what's the rule? Show the jury an injustice. We basically relitigated that traffic stop in front of a jury. All the legality. I said, oh, officer, you pulled my client over. You're in that car. Wow, you've been a gang officer for all this time. And you've never written any tickets for noise complaints, tinted windows, little dangly things from mirrors. Huh. And of course, everybody saw through it. Everybody knew it was an injustice that was taking place. Was the client probably, shouldn't have known sure, right? Whatever. But it was an injustice. It was an injustice, and the jury corrected it. And that's what you have to be able to do when you go to court. So whether it's Mr. Allen's attorneys, John Pryor, you got to show them an injustice, and the jury will correct it. Now, the injustice, right, according to Mr. Pryor, is that his clients have been wrongfully accused of 3 murders. Did he do it? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But John Pryor, if we had a dumb criminal, a dumb criminal defense attorney award for like a day or a week, I would have to give it to John Pryor. And I don't mean any disrespect by it, but it's like, dude, you already got the guy's house, plus who knows what else you got. You're probably driving around, with his tractors and his property, every chicken the guy had on his house, book royalties, from all the stuff, trying to get paid. And you could have walked away from it. And now you just bought yourself 12 weeks of living hell. Although a part of me can't wait. And why can't I wait for the Lori Vallow trial? We've already seen the prosecution once, okay? And we already know the judge. What was this? Freaking trial by PowerPoint? Like, are you kidding me? Judge, we'd like to introduce the next 40 exhibits, which are the PowerPoint of... No. But the defense in Lori Vallow case didn't even object. Like, I'm sitting here just like, object, objection hearsay, objection lack of foundation, lack of personal knowledge, object. I think Mr. Pryor gets the rules of evidence a little better. I sure hope he does, because if he could shut the prosecution down, that would be, be kind of fun to see. Okay. There's nothing better than objecting. I am an objector. Okay. I object early. I object often. And you can always react. And I particularly love it when you have young prosecutors on the other side. First question to the police officer. Sir, I noticed that you arrived here today as dressed in the attire of a police officer. What do you do for a living? Well, I'm a police officer. I noticed you're wearing your uniform. Yeah. You put on all your ribbons today, didn't you? Polish up your little badge. Nice. Okay. Next question. So what do you have to do to become a police officer? Objection, relevance. And of course, the judge looks at you like, why are you objecting to that question? We always ask these questions. Your Honor, what relevance? He is a lay witness. He is a lay witness. He's not an expert. He's going to testify as to what he saw. Why do we care what he had to do to become a police officer? Don't care. Not relevant. And of course, the young prosecutors are like, what? Judge, it's in my script. I can't function if I can't follow my script. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And the judge looks at you and kind of smiles, and he's agreeing with you, or she's agreeing with you, the judge. Well, I'm going to overrule it, but let's move along a little bit. And it just shows you all right, game on. And then by the end of it, they're like, Your Honor, Mr. Reich, he's objecting. He's an objector. I object. And the judge has to look at them and smile and say, but I'm sustaining his objections. So let's move it along. If you can't get the evidence in, that's your fault, right? The good old days, right? I mean, some days this job wears on you. The preparation for trial wears on you. Sometimes the clients can wear on you. But when they say, and you're sitting there at the table, bring in the jury, it's like, oh, if that's what it is for people, that's what it is for trial attorneys. Bring in the jury. Just whatever they pump you up with, like, let's go. All right. Went a little long tonight. I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. I do appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Talked a little about Richard Allen, a little bit about John Pryor. We'll continue the conversation over on our Patreon page. So if you're not a Patreon, the link down below, you can join up. I think it's, I don't know what, $1 or $5, something like that. And we give you some cool free stuff. And, well, it's your show. The Patreon show will give you the secret Crime Talk bat line number. So you can call in if you have any questions. We can talk about, anything you want to talk about because it's your show. And we will go from there. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thanks for watching. We know you had lots of other things you could have done, and now you're here with us. So thank you. Please join us for our Patreon show starting in about 5 minutes. See you then.